So Nora, fantastic to meet you. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. Congratulations on a really phenomenal film with system crashes. So maybe you could just start by telling us the genesis of this story. What prompted you to write about this particular topic and make a film about it?
So I wanted to make a film about a wild little girl for a long time now, I think since I ever started making films. But I didn't really have the story for it, so this character stayed with me, but nothing too concrete. And then 6 years ago, during a shoot for a documentary film, it was about a shelter for homeless women. A 14-year-old girl moved in, and I was shocked by that fact. I thought, she's way too young, what's a 14-year-old girl doing here? And the social worker just repeated normally, well, it's a system crasher. We can always take them in on their 14th birthday. And that was the time when I thought, wait a minute, what? A system crasher? What's that? I mean, it sounds so powerful. And though it's a tragic, disturbing backstory, I guess, and I started doing my research, and then the theme stayed with me, and I decided to write a fiction film.
And it really does rest on the performance of Helena as Benny.
Yes.
And it's a lot of pressure on a child actor, and if they weren't able to pull it off, the film wouldn't have worked. So how did you find the perfect actress to play this role, and how did you work with her to try and bring out some of the extremes of her behaviour, of the character's behaviour?
Yeah, so while writing the script, I thought, I'm never gonna find a girl who can play that role, and probably if I find a girl, her parents will never allow her to do it, but we were lucky, and it was just through children's casting, through a casting agency, and then she came and she was the 7th girl, number 7, and I thought, well, it can't be number 7. I mean, I wrote the script for years, so we casted 150 more girls, and I always came back to Helena because she could play this aggression and violence always with like layers of vulnerability and desperation, and was very touching to me.
And in terms of the research that went into writing this character, how much of it is based on, true stories, things that have happened, and how much did you have to kind of fill in the gaps or imagine how she might behave?
I think almost everything is somehow inspired by real life, maybe like 80%, but it's everything like mixed up and put together in a new way. So a story like this never happened. It's like stolen of many lives and experiences and people I met. So it would get this one story.
And the connection between Benny and Misha is one that's really important in the film. How did you see this character of Misha, and how did you make sure that there was this incredible chemistry and trust between those two actors in order to portray that so well on the screen?
I mean, I wanted to describe a character that we kind of all fall in love with, but at the same time, he has many mistakes, and he does mistakes. He's not like the perfect one to save her. He himself is a kind of system crasher, but still, like, we don't judge him for his behavior. We really put our hopes and our empathy on him. So it was very important to find a Micha that really also connects with Helena, not only with Benny. And she was part of all his castings. And when Helena and Albrecht came together for the first time, there was already some magic happening in the room. And she was really curious and wanted to challenge him and play with him. And yeah, we met a few times, and it was clear it has to be him.
And Albrecht, almost transforms himself quite physically for this role.
Yes.
It seems that.
Yes.
So was there a lot of preparation with him? And he seems so committed to sort of both showing you how he might behave. There seems to be a lot going on. There's a lot of past. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of thoughts that we're not privy to.
Yeah, it's true. Like, he's an actor. He commits himself 100% to the role and to the work. He does nothing else during this time, and he's willing to change himself physically if it's necessary for the role, if he understands why. And so we were kind of looking together for certain sport forms he would do to transform his body, for a certain nutrition, and then he made some survival camps where he had to swim naked in the fall in the woods, you know, with a survival group. And he also got some anti-aggression training, so with someone who really works in this job. So this all is not part of the film, of course, but I think it helped him a lot. Also the costume and the hair we cut to transform into Micha.
Something that seems very important to the way you present the characters in the story is resisting overt judgment. So you're not saying that the social services are necessarily failing. You don't even judge Benny, even when she behaves, you know, in very extreme ways. So was that something very important to the balance of the story and to show a multitude of perspectives?
Definitely. For me, making a film, a cinema film, has to give a new perspective on something relevant. So if I do a film that just, how do you say, just stables the perspective of this is good and this is bad and this is how we know, then for me it's not as interesting. So I think it's more interesting when you kind of change the line between good and bad and who's to judge and not. So making a film about the bad system and the poor little child, I think it wouldn't be so interesting. It's much more real that the system wants to help. Social workers usually want to help the children. It's not always possible. And Benny is a very extreme child, so it's not so easy to judge an adult who says, I can't deal with this child anymore.
And just thinking more broadly, it seems a great time right now for female film directors, female writers, and female-led stories. Do you see that that landscape is changing? And what do you think, from your perspective, it is that having more diversity in filmmaking can bring to cinema?
So yes, you're right. It's a really good time for female directors. We're really lucky. I mean, I read an interview with German director Margarete von Trotta, and she said when she was young and she started to be an actress, it was impossible for her to imagine to work as a director as a woman. And in my generation, I just always wanted to make films and be a director, and nobody ever said, hey, you're a girl, you can't do it. So things are changing, and I think that's great, and more stories have to be told. So I'm curious to more female cinema.
All right, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with
Thank
us.
you.
And congratulations again on a wonderful film.